What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rams Brothers. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and the other great host of this show, Nick. And Nick, I am pumped for this one. This one feels like a playoff game on Sunday Night Football. Rams, Eagles traveling across country with 11 days rest to play the 5-5 Rams. Eagles are the number 2 seed in the NFC right now. But before we jump in and anything, I wanted to ask, how are you, my good brother?
I'm good. It's Eagles week. Just a little lore about the Rams brothers. We're from South Jersey, which is typically Eagles country. So we've been Rams fans our whole life, but we grew up around all that Eagles fandom. And these games are they feel like playoff games every time to us and all of our friends because they know we're huge Rams fans. So they're always amplified by 10, at least in our brains. And I mean, this is a real opponent, a real chance to get in the win column finally for the first time this season, be above 500, and beat a team that is the second seed in the NFC right now.
This game, the reason why I said it feels like a playoff game is because it's similar to the Thursday Night Football game against the Vikings, where like playoff implications are on the line. You want to increase your playoff probability. If the Rams win this game, they go from 14% or 21% to 30%. You beat one of the top teams in the NFC. You got some good momentum, good mojo going into the following week where you got to play the Saints, which is another must-win game, another NFC opponent. But yeah, and just one more thing about Nick, us being from South Jersey. Dad's a lifetime long Rams fan. Family in Los Angeles. You were at USC when the Rams moved back to Los Angeles. So you and I got to go see the Rams versus the Eagles, the Carson Wentz game where Mark Barron ran into Carson Wentz's knee and he threw a touchdown. Then I think he completed a 2-point conversion following play on a torn ACL and MCL. And then what did the Eagles do? They proceeded to go to the Super Bowl that year and win it with Nick Foles in 2017. Been to a handful of Rams-Eagles games. We were there last year at SoFi Stadium to enjoy that loss where it was just overwhelmed with Eagles fans, probably about 60-40 Eagles fans versus Rams fans.
I would say 70.
Even a little bit more. Yeah.
I would say 70-30, maybe even 75 Eagles fans. They travel. You know, I hate them, but you have to respect them. They're a fan base that cares whether their team is good or bad. They have dedication to their team, and they travel really well. There's a lot of Philly people that moved to Los Angeles. So, I mean, it's just the stadiums, it's going to be a lot of Eagles fans. Just prepping all of our listeners for that one.
Yeah, Eagles fans travel really well. I was just listening to WIP, which is the primary radio station in Eagles country. It's been shouted out on Barstool, shouted out on New Heights. So it's world renowned. But they're already talking about the Super Bowl. They're talking about if they're in consideration with some of the other elite teams in football, the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs. So they're in a way kind of overlooking this game, and rightfully so. When you're 8-2, you have that kind of mentality where you could write off some of these NFC opponents. Obviously, Rams have struggled to start the season, and the Eagles started off 2-2 as well. Both teams always consistently start slow, but for the Rams, for whatever reason, whether it's injuries, whether it's red zone efficiency, McVay's play calling, they've been a little bit shaky. It's been more of a roller coaster, which is why I feel like Eagles fans are overlooking this one. Sean McVay versus Nick Sirianni, two high-profile coaches in terms of everybody's always interested what they have to say, whether it's good or bad. They always have eyes on them. Everybody kind of wants to hear what Nick Sirianni's mentality is week to week, how he handles adversity, how he handles the fan base. Sean McVay, kind of the same way. So I think it's a really good head coaching matchup. This one is going to be really interesting, too, in terms of the spread. Rams are 2.5-point underdogs. They're plus 130 on the money line, and only 17% of the bets have been placed on the Rams so far this season, or so far in this game. So, wow. 83% of the money right now is on the Philadelphia Eagles. So, Nick, I know you like when the public is highly backing a specific team. Is it you usually like to go the opposite direction?
Yeah, I mean, that's just like the gambling manifesto. It's just go against the public, play with the house, be the book. But, I mean, it's honestly this season, the public has been hitting a lot of their bets. But that looked very similar to Rams Vikings on Thursday night, which we brought up. It was almost the same. I think Rams maybe had like 20% of the bet, and I'm sure some sharp money is going to come in on the Rams later. But I mean, it also just kind of makes you feel like, and I know that this isn't true, but that like the calls will maybe be more in our favor versus the Eagles' favor to make the game a little closer. But just to go back to the two head coaches, why don't you flash them on the screen there for a second? Kind of looks like me and you, just a little bit. Kind of looks like me and you, and I am where Sirianni is. But I feel like there's a lot of hate internally in the fan bases for both of those coaches, and I feel like there are a lot of Rams fans right now that are like, McVay, strip him of play calling duty. I am done with him. He's terrible in the red zone. This team is better than what they are. And I mean, it's that times 100 in Eagles fandom. They, like now they kind of have to like just sit there and just accept Sirianni. It's like, okay, well, they're winning, so I have no complaints. But the minute they drop this game, the first calls on that Philly network are going to be fire Sirianni. He doesn't know what he's doing. 100.
Yeah, well, it's because the implications are so high. It's very similar to what the 49ers are dealing with Kyle Shanahan, where it's Super Bowl or bust. So they obviously want to move on from their head coach because they haven't been able to finish the job. The Eagles' mentality is very much the same way, where this is a Super Bowl roster. It's a Super Bowl team. We got to be able to get one with Jalen. He's, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in football. They feel like they have the roster to be able to do it. And right now, the Eagles are number one ranked in terms of rushing offense in the NFL. So I think this one's going to be fascinating for a couple of reasons. One, the Rams is one of their better run defenders in terms of linebackers. Omar Spates was born and raised in Philadelphia. Probably grew up an Eagles fan, so I would imagine he's got some extra motivation to be able to get the job done in this game. And he's been playing really good football since Troy Reeder went on IR. The Rams' run defense over the last 5 weeks has been much improved. I think we could all agree on that just in terms of how the front's playing. But against teams who rank in the bottom 15 in rushing offense, so Raiders, Vikings, Seahawks, Dolphins, and Patriots, none of them really run the ball that efficiently. And the Rams' defense on the other side went up against 3 of the top 5 rushing offenses in the beginning of this season. So Lions, Cardinals, Packers, before they made that switch over from Troy Reeder to Omar Spates and put him in the middle. And obviously it was the beginning of the season. It's a young defense. You got to give a little bit to get them going. But the young front 7, I think, is going to be challenged consistently in this game. Jordan Mailata's great left tackle. Lane Johnson, top 4 in terms of pressures allowed. I think he's only allowed 15 pressures so far this season. Cam Jurgens has done an incredible job taking over for Jason Kelce as his long-term replacement. It's been almost seamless. And Jeff Stoutland is, I would say, the best offensive line coach in the NFL. He's all over the Senior Bowl. He's got that kind of mentality where it doesn't matter who's playing the position. They're going to be able to coach them up and be able to get the job done, whether it's through the run, through the pass game. So Jeff Stoutland is highly renowned, loved across the league through tons and tons of coaches. And the Rams defense right now is currently ranked first in pressure rate at 41.9. So, a little bit of a head-to-head battle in terms of the young front, some of the edge rushers, whether it's Byron Young, Jared Verse, even Braden Fisk interior, to be able to consistently rush the passer and get Jalen off of his game when he is dropping back.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Saquon Barkley is the running back in the National Football League right now. He's the guy that is making all of the noise. And shout out to the Eagles offensive line because you need that. And, it's something where, and I might end up eating these words, Saquon is less what I'm worried about in terms of the run game. It's 3rd and 13 when the Rams need to stop and everybody downfield is covered, and then Hurts picks up 13 yards on the ground by himself, and all of a sudden
that's what happened last year. It happened last year a ton.
Yeah, I mean that is that. I mean, I felt like Mayo last week needed to call more plays for Drake May to be doing that because I felt like they had opportunities to pick up those yardage, and it was funny. It felt like they had these long developing pass plays, and I was just like, this kid has the legs, like pick up these yardage, and I think the Eagles know that, and I think that is going to be one of their keys to victory, just because Hurts is just like, he hasn't been the most accurate passer this year. He's been stumbling a little bit, and people are, a little upset at where he is development wise, but he'll beat you on the ground 100%. And with Barkley, it's the closest NFC comparison you have to Lamar and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's Jalen has gone through a couple of offensive coordinator changes. Obviously, this is the first year in the Kellen Moore regime, but that's Eagles fans' main concern is, are we able to get the job done with Jalen Hurts? Is he going to turn the ball over in really important moments? Is Nick Sirianni going to force us to go for a fourth down conversion when it's unnecessary, similar to the Dan Campbell methodology in Detroit. And what's really interesting about the Eagles, their 6-game win streak, and this is kind of a segue from dealing with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, which is going to be a handful. They've gotten wins over the Browns, who are 24th against the run, the Giants, who are 29th against the run, the Bengals, who are 21st against the run, the Jags, who are 26th, and the Cowboys, who are 31st, and also the Commanders, who are 30th against the run. So 3 of the 4 worst run defenses are in their division. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on, because their success may have something to do with the fact that these 6 teams being physically and schematically unable to defend against their greatest strength. So you combine the record of all 6 of these opponents, you're at 20-43. And the Rams are currently ranked 18th against the run, which is closest to the Cleveland Browns, who held Saquon Barkley to 18 carries for 47 yards and no touchdowns. So that would be something to kind of keep an eye on, as the Rams are more of a comparison in terms of being able to stop the run to Cleveland, where I think the Eagles beat them in the last second of that game. It was 20-16. So Cleveland actually played a really hard-fought game. I think it was before even Jameis Winston took over at quarterback and Deshaun Watson was still in the field. And in their 11 games this season, the Rams will face another top 5 rushing attack. So far, they've seen the Lions, who are 3rd, the Packers, who are 4th, and the Cardinals, who are 5th. And they've all been losses. And as I mentioned, the Eagles have ranked first so far this season with 181.3 yards per game. So it's going to be a massive test for the front. But I think one that they're going to come prepared for, just based on how well they've been playing recently and how well Chris Schul has kind of schemed up to be able to defend against the run game.
This is a game more than any where you have to rely on your offense. You have a young defense, and they're going up against, like you said, the number 1 rushing attack in all of the NFL. The Eagles are going to score. They're absolutely going to score in this game. You cannot count on your defense to keep you in this game. It's going to have to be more similar to the Thursday night game. And the Eagles, like the Rams, struggle in the first quarter. Their first quarter differential is terrible, but they have a much better record because they can pick it up and they figure it out as the game goes on. Very similar to us. Our first quarter point differential is horrible. Last time I saw it was like -39 or something. So if you can get out there fast and score against this Vic Fangio defense that has been pretty phenomenal. Those are the scripted drives, those early drives. If McVay can go out there and script something really good to start this game, maybe even win the toss and elect to get the ball, I think that is a huge key to victory for this Rams team.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And the Rams offense versus Vic Fangio is going to be a massive talking point this week, because the Rams have been stealing intricacies and tendencies from Vic Fangio's scheme since the Rams lost to the Bears in December of 2018 when they lost that game 15-6.
Yeah,
and everybody felt like McVay's offense, his scheme primarily, was being exposed in real time. And then I think it was the following week that they lost to the Lions and Matt Patricia, and then Bill Belichick. We know what happened there.
They beat the Lions, but they barely beat the Lions.
Right, but their offense looked like they were exposed. They were no longer this 37-point high-powered offense. They were shrunken down to 6 points in December in Chicago of 2018, which got really scary. And I think it's the reason why, that Bill Belichick was able to kind of watch the tape and expose some of the things that the Rams like to do in terms of tendencies offensively. But, they were nearly unstoppable that entire season. And then here comes Vic Fangio. And McVay has praised him countless times in countless interviews. That's why they hired Brandon Staley in 2020 after working under Fangio as the Bears' outside linebackers coach. When Staley went to the Chargers, they hired Raheem Morris. And that scheme was just recycled all over again. It was, they tried to replicate the Rams' top defense in 2020. And you go back to 2020, the Rams were dominant against the Eagles in Philadelphia in the COVID year. I think they won that game like 37-16 or something. But the point is that they understand how Vic Fangio's scheme functions, probably better than 99% of the league, because of how obsessed Sean McVay was about figuring it out and trying to scheme against it offensively. And they've replicated it defensively for the better part of 5 years. And they practiced against it ad nauseum. So we know what Vic Fangio's defense is all about. We've seen it with Raheem Morris. We saw it with Brandon Staley. Limiting explosives, bend, don't break, the cover two and quarters consistently being rolled out from a secondary perspective. They disguise coverages, a disciplined 4-man front with I would say not a ton of blitzes, but they're consistent in terms of how they like to blitz. Inside linebackers who could drop in coverage and rush the passer. I mean, we lived it. We lived through the Vic Fangio scheme. We lived through Sean McVay trying to figure it out mentally. So I think it's going to be something to keep your eyes on in terms of if the Rams do score quick, they score early, it's because they understand what Vic Fangio is going to try to throw at them.
I mean, I think that's the way that you can kind of command this game, because the Eagles rely heavily on their defense too, because they have that terrible first quarter differential, and they have those two young quarterbacks that are, wearing shirts that say exciting whites into games, which feels just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, these are the matchups that you're going to be watching all game where, I mean, like, can we get more super Puka? Potentially. I mean, I hope so. I think we'll see it.
Yeah, I mean, Quinyon Mitchell and Jared Verse right now are going head-to-head in terms of Defensive Rookie of the Year at current odds. Jared Verse is -200. Quinyon Mitchell's +225.
This is the game where that number goes from -200 to -400, or it's even after this game, 100%.
100, you're completely spot on. It's in prime time. It makes all the sense in the world that those two guys are going to want to show up. Quinyon Mitchell's been playing his ass off. He doesn't have the same kind of numbers that Jared Verse has, obviously, because they play different positions. But he's the only NFL cornerback with 375 coverage snaps and 0 passing touchdowns allowed so far this season. So Quinyon Mitchell's playing really good football. He was probably the best player at the Senior Bowl. It was Quinyon Mitchell and Braden Fisk. So Jeff Stoutland had his eye on him. I'm sure he sent it up the recruiting ladders and was like, dude, we got to get this guy Quinyon Mitchell in the first round. And the Eagles hadn't drafted a cornerback in the first round for like 20 years. So it made sense for them to go. It was Troy Vincent, and there was another dominant. Troy Vincent, I think, is the president of the NFLPA at this point. And there was one other guy, Bobby Taylor maybe, who they were so focused on back in the early 2000s when they went to the NFC Championship 4 straight years. So, I mean, this is kind of the second coming of that. So it's going to be really interesting to watch that matchup. I actually think Quinyon Mitchell's probably going to be matched up on the outside with Demarcus Robinson for the most part, because Coop and Puka are at the F and the Z and are interchangeable there. So you're going to see Cooper DeJean probably on Cooper Kupp more often than you see Quinyon Mitchell on Cooper Kupp. But the Rams offense, going over the offense for a second, they were dominant against New England since last year. And this is one of those stats that, I like to push the buttons a little bit of the Rams fans, because you can't complain about the best coach in franchise history week in and week out. Understand they're not great from a red zone perspective right now, but they've been banged up. Their weapons have been injured. You haven't had Cooper and Puka for the majority of the season. You don't have great tight end play. Yeah, you could just simplify and give the rock to Kyren Williams, but sometimes
that doesn't work. That is not the kind of running back Kyren Williams is. He's not Joe Mixon. He's not the guy that is going to just pick up 10 organically on his own. Like, you have to either wear them down, or you have to make them be threatened by the deep pass.
Right.
Yeah. It's 100% not on Kyren, and I think fans that are asking to run the ball are the most pissed when it's the first quarter and they go 3 and out, and you're like, what the hell happened? Why did you run the ball 2 times in that first possession? But yeah, I mean, dominant against New England, yes. Slow to start in that first quarter, absolutely. Like that, it's just they pick up the feel for the game and then they can respond. But this is the game where if you're seriously talking about the Rams as a contender in the NFC, a team to be worried about in the playoffs, a team that could win the NFC West, you got to start hot this game. There's no way around it. If you have put up 0 points and you're playing from behind in the first quarter, I'm going to lose all faith, and my tweets are going to be terrible.
As expected. So this is the post that was put out yesterday that seemed to get a lot of attention. Another reason for Rams fans to stop bitching about Sean McVay's play calling. Since last year, the Rams have averaged a 17.2% explosive play rate and a plus 0.10 EPA per play when Stafford, Kupp, Nakua, and Kyren are all on the field at the exact same time. That ranks first in the NFL. They're also averaging the most yards per play in the NFL over that span when all those guys are on the field at the same time. So that's kind of my mindset, is I have all the confidence in the world that they're going to be able to get to the red zone and then be able to convert similar to how they did against New England. I think it's going to consistently improve their red zone efficiency now that these guys are healthy. And how about this? The Rams' offensive line is as healthy as they've been the entire season. Alaric Jackson at left tackle, left guard, Steve Avila, center, Bo Limmer, right guard, Kevin Dotson, and then right tackle. Hopefully we have Rob Havenstein in this game, and I think we will. But Jalen Carter may be, on the Eagles front, maybe one of the most disruptive interior defensive linemen in the NFL. It's like DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Carter, Braden Fisk, all in the same kind of conversation. And they also have getting some really good production from their edge players in recent weeks in Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith. But I think all eyes are going to be on that matchup: Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Darius Slay versus DeMarcus Robinson, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua. But I feel like it's twofold offensively. And Nick, you kind of mentioned this already: play with the lead and execute in the red zone. Those are going to be your two big keys offensively.
They not a single game this year. I feel like maybe the Raiders. They took the lead and then they were able to control the game. I think that's the only time it happened this season. Every other game they're playing from behind, and that is just as a fan, it's just so stressful. I mean, you watch the Eagles play the Cowboys a couple weeks ago, division rival, and I know Dak's hurt, but that game is done before the first quarter. It's like 14-3. It's just like, I mean, not all records are created the same, and we're still 500 right now. It's just, I would just like one game. It'd be like against an inferior opponent where I can just put my feet up, and it just hasn't happened. It does make me think, though, that will happen at some point this year. And if it's against the Eagles, then my God, I mean, that's just a dream, because then it's just Eagles talk radio. What is wrong with this team? Like, they're not going anywhere and all that. And the Rams are feeling like they can, you go into the New Orleans, you win that game too. All of a sudden you're like a dark horse.
You're 7-5. Yeah. Yep. And then you got to go to Buffalo and then maybe steal a win there, and you're 8-5 and you're cruising. But that's going to be, it's a tough 3-week stretch.
You got to win this game. Well, you definitely have to win against New Orleans, but you have to either win this game or the Buffalo game. I don't suspect them to win both. No. You definitely have to beat New Orleans, but you got to beat one of these two top teams. Otherwise, you're really hoping that some other stuff falls. Like the Commanders really just all of a sudden just lose every game, and you're in there less so as like a division winner and more so as like a wild card team.
Yeah, totally agreed. Yeah, so real quick, keys to victory before we jump into Nick's picks. Let's get the first key. Let's get that one out of the way. All right, Rams offense hasn't been consistent from week to week. If they get off to a slow start and aren't capable of red zone opportunities, aren't capitalizing on red zone opportunities, they're going to struggle and come away, and they're not going to come away with a win. So they need to hit a couple of explosives early on. I think getting Tutu involved early, make the defense defend every blade of grass, is extremely important. And how about a few explosive runs in this game? I wouldn't mind a Kyron 25-yard run. I wouldn't mind Blake Corum breaking one. It feels like it hasn't happened all season.
How about a jet sweep run for like 7?
We'll take that too. Yeah, key number 2. Rams' secondary might not have an answer for A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. One of the best wide receiver duos in the league. It's going to be a huge test for Darius Williams, Akella Witherspoon primarily, but also Quentin Lake, Cam Kinchins, who's back-to-back Defensive Player of the Week, Jalen McCullough, and Kobe Durant. If you can slow down the run game and force Jalen Hurts outside of the pocket and force him to throw the ball downfield, we've seen it in multiple games this season. He's prone to turning the ball over. So I think that would be a massive exclamation point if you could force Jalen Hurts to turn the ball over and force this offense to be one-dimensional. And also, I feel like the Rams' front, knowing that it's young, it has a tendency earlier on in the season, mostly, to over-pursue. But I feel like they've since kind of corrected some of their mistakes. They need to stay disciplined all throughout this game. No penalties, stay within themselves, do a good job up front to be able to limit Philly's run game, which I think is going to be really difficult. And then the final key. Special teams has got to be better. Jake Elliott, God, he was horrible on Thursday night against the Commanders, which is, 11 days ago, feels like forever ago. But Josh Carty was also a little bit shaky in the New England game, obviously missed a 26-yard field goal. You got to be better than the Eagles on special teams in this game if you want to win.
Yeah.
If you win 2 of the 3 phases, if you're better offensively, if you're better on special teams, but you're worse on defense, then there's an opportunity to be able to get a win. But we shall see. I think special teams is always important in these kind of games.
Make no mistake, Dean and I are sitting here not calling the Eagles a bad team. I think you have to respect them 100%. I think you have to come out hot, and yeah, you have to be really good on all 3 phases. It's not a New England game where like Cardi misses that kick, that will go, and that 26-yarder that will bite you in the ass in a situation like this. And we have a kicker that's worried about extra points. You got to be a special teams offense, defense. I have to be there the whole time. Finish the game strong. Eagles are going to want to win this one. It's in LA. The fans will be going. The Eagles fans will be going nuts, and it's prime time. So everybody's got their eyes on this one. And yeah, I think that's my favorite key is special teams, because I always bitching about special teams because they just can't seem to figure it out.
Yeah, rightfully so. I think that's a wrap for Rams Eagles preview. I think that's what we got for this week. Anything else that we missed? If we missed anything, if you feel like there's anything else that we should have talked about, make sure to drop it in the comments so that we can discuss it as we're anticipating Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, no, I think we're good. I think we can move on.
Cool. Let's do our favorite part of the week. Nick's picks.
Picture is going to be 4 years old on Thanksgiving. That's when that was taken. It was Thanksgiving in 2020 when I couldn't come home. So I was just trying to make myself laugh and posting pictures of me with my coffee on Thanksgiving morning. But hey, what's up? We're at Nick's Picks. We've been ass. There is no other way to say it. Nick's Picks has been ass. Dean's locks this season are, I think, 1-8. So, we really got nothing going for us right now. Overall, my record is ass. But you know what? I said to the people at Autograph who aren't answering my calls anymore, I said, I'm bringing back the theme songs. And they said, I don't care. And I said, good. And I hung up the phone. So here's what we got. We got a theme song for you guys.
Oh, we do. We actually do have a theme song.
Yeah.
That's the producer's fault. We missed that one.
Oh, well, you know what? We can save it for next week. If you don't have it.
Save it for next week. We'll save it for the next preview, because I actually, you know what? I could probably get it real quick, but why don't you jump into your picks and we'll play it as we wrap up.
All right, that's fine. So we got Steelers at the Browns. I just think collectively you got Shannon Sharp saying the Steelers are the team to beat in the AFC. There is way too much Steelers hype. Tomlin is the king of losing to bad teams in November and December. Most Steelers, it would be the most Steelers thing to do right now would to beat the MVP candidate Lamar Jackson, the number 1, and then lose to Jameis Winston the very following week. I love the Browns with the points here. Browns plus 3.5. I know they're 2-8. I don't think it matters at all. This is a divisional game where the Steelers have owned the Browns in their lifetime, but I just don't. I can't sit here and be like, oh, the Steelers are a really good AFC team. They are a fantastic defense, 100%, but they don't really know what's going on in quarterback. They didn't throw a single touchdown pass against the Ravens. They didn't run a single touchdown pass in last week. I love Browns 3.5. It's my favorite bet of the week. It's Thursday, so we get to hop on it right now. And I'm also going to take the over 36 in that game. It's so low, 36. 21-17 it hits. Like, come on now. They're begging you. They're begging you to take that over, and I'm taking it. I just think it's too low for a professional football match for an over to be at 36.
Yeah, I feel like the Browns obviously have a pretty decent defense. I feel like the Steelers have won their most recent games like 18-16. So I understand where the over-under is coming from, but I don't know. Browns plus 3.5. Steelers are playing good football. I don't know. I just started to doubt Nick's picks, but obviously you're looking at the worst gambler of all time. So
yeah. Should I keep going, or did you get this song?
No, I wasn't able to pull it up.
That's fine. We don't need. We'll save it for next week.
All right.
Chiefs at Panthers is my very very next bet. The Chiefs are kings of playing with their food. My Panthers over 5.5 wins bet is hanging on by a thread. I need 3 more wins, which just feels impossible. But we're going to try and recoup some of those losses along the way because I think they're actually starting to find themselves as a team. I'm really liking what Bryce is doing overall. They were able to beat the Giants away to the point where it got Daniel Jones benched. I don't know. I think they're finding themselves as an offense. Defense isn't that bad. That offensive line is one of the best in the league. Panthers plus 11, baby. I won't even take Panthers money line. I'm probably going to put $25 on Panthers money line.
Panthers offensive line is one of the best in the league.
They're figuring it out, man. I like the Panthers a lot.
I don't.
Plus 11. Panthers plus 11. If you like the other side of this bet, makes me like it even more.
What was your Jags bet last week?
Jags plus 14.
There's too much points at an NFL game. It's not.
Oh yeah, that was bad. That was like one of the worst bets I've ever placed in my life. But it's okay.
No, it's all good. What do you got next? You got another one for us?
We move on. Bucks at the New York Giants. The New York Giants, I mean, I don't know what they're doing as an organization. You have Drew Lock. You pay Drew Lock $5 million to be a backup quarterback. And then what do? You bench Daniel Jones, who's getting quarterback 4 reps in practice, and you move on to your third string quarterback, Cutlets. You move on to Tommy Cutlets just because you think he's going to sell seats and he's an Italian-American and it's a home game in New York. It's just a dumb move by the organization. I just don't really understand it at all. I think you're just playing at this point to lose. You're thinking about the future. I mean, you have a really good coach in Dayball who just doesn't have a really good run team and is trying to make things work. And they'll probably fire him because they're a dumb team and he'll get picked up somewhere else. And they'll have to completely reset. But I think the Bucks are good. I think the Bucks are really good. I think the Bucks can actually still come back and win that division, even though they have they're 0-2 against the current leader of that NFC South. But I think that's completely possible for them to win that. The Falcons are on a decline. Bucks are a really good team. Baker was an MVP candidate until he started losing games, still playing really well. Bucks -6. I think that's easy, to be honest with you. I don't think that's a worry. You're going to have New York fans with paper bags on their heads. Cutlets isn't going to do anything. It was fun last year. It's not going to happen again, guys.
That's one I'll agree with. I don't think Danny DeVito is able to get the job done. Hasn't played football in a long time. Isn't a high-quality quarterback. I hate that agent. Can't stand him with the curly hair and the top hat. Just give me a break with the New York Giants. Tank. Yeah. Go get a good quarterback. Move on from the GM and start things fresh. You got a quick pick for us this week?
I got a quick pick, but let's run it back real fast. We got Browns plus 3.5. I'll take the over 36 in Steelers-Browns. Panthers plus 11. Bucks -6. And then my quick pick, I know we all want the 49ers to lose, but the 49ers plus 3 in Lambeau. I mean, I just can't not take that. I don't like the 49ers, but I respect them. They still have Brock Purdy, still have McCaffrey, still have Kittle. I know there's no Bosa in this game, but that defense is a strong unit. I just don't. And the Packers barely won last week. I mean, they really didn't even deserve it. Crazy block kick. You know, I'm not gonna discredit their special teams, but Caleb Williams did everything he was supposed to do to win that game, and the Bears just couldn't get out of their own way.
Yeah, I hate them. I hate them. I don't respect them. I want them to lose by 30. I got Packers by 30.
I mean, that would be nice. This is a bet where if you lose the bet, you're not all that mad. Don't put that much money on it. You know, just take 49ers plus 3. Maybe there's a perfect world where, the Packers win by 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't care. As long as the Packers win the game, keep the Niners in the basement of the NFC West.
Oh, wait. It would be nice, but I've watched enough football with them to just never count them out. I mean,
I understand. Totally fair.
This season, when we played them in the NFC Championship game, we had an opportunity to end their season in that game. We're up like 14-0, and then Jimmy G comes all the way back, and then they get into the playoffs and they make it all the way to the NFC Championship, and then we beat them, which is the most serendipitous, beautiful thing ever. But you can never count them out. And I'm just, after the last couple of weeks, I want to be smart with my money and not dumb.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, outside of betting on the Browns, pretty smart money. No, I'm just kidding. We'll see.
It would be so Steelers of them to lose that game. And you know that as a fact.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. If you guys are enjoying the pod, make sure that you are and subscribed. We need you guys' support. We appreciate you as always. Comment, put your comments all over the place on X, on Butterfly, whatever the hell it's called. Is that what it's called?
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky. Why do I call Butterfly? Is that because it's the picture of the app?
Yeah, it is a butterfly on the app. I got to download Blue Sky. I didn't even know that we collectively, as the Rams brothers, were even on it. So I got to download Blue Sky.
We sure are. Yes.
Twitter sucks. I got to get out of there.
Yeah. Follow us everywhere. Comment your thoughts. And as always, go Rams.
Go Rams, everybody.
Peace.